Police are searching for a group of women they say are responsible for dozens of burglaries in Baltimore County.
Baltimore County Police releasing these images Friday. Suspects, they say, in a recent spree of daytime burglaries. Investigators say the groups are typically small, separate teams, often with 2 or 3 women.
You know, typically on this channel, whenever we highlight a crime or a string of crimes in Baltimore City or Baltimore County, the perpetrators of said crimes happen to be disproportionately black males. Now, we all understand why this is the case. We get crime statistics and whatnot, and we also have an understanding of the demographics of Baltimore. So again, all of this is just sensible, rational coverage of what is going on in the city of Baltimore. However, in this particular case, I have to say, I was drawn to it because the suspects were way different than what I expected. The suspects in this daytime burglary gang happened to be disproportionately Islamic women in Islamic garb. And honestly, the whole entire reason why I'm covering it is because of the images of these particular suspects breaking into places in order to steal jewelry, because I find it to be absolutely disgusting from top to bottom. Now, I will also add into the fact that a lot of the people in the neighborhoods that are being victimized are also Islamic people. So these are people robbing from their own group, which is oftentimes what happens in the United States of America. You are targeted by people in your own community, people that you know. So this is not an instance of them, in many of the cases, breaking into random non-Islamic populations in order to steal jewelry from them. But of course, Islamic women stealing, very interesting story on its surface, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
In Baltimore County, the search is on for what police are calling traveling groups of thieves. Look at them. Baltimore County Police releasing these images Friday. Suspects, they say, in a recent spree of daytime burglaries.
So first of all, I just want to highlight the fact that the police always use euphemisms whenever we're talking about protected minority groups. And in this particular case, the euphemism is traveling groups of thieves. All you need to know if you're out there in the public about this particular traveling groups of thieves is the fact that they travel to the location, do some thievery, and then they ultimately end up leaving. It's not notable, apparently, according to the police, despite the fact that you could see these images for yourself, that almost everybody in these particular photos is of Islamic origin, wearing distinctly Islamic clothing, and of course, these are daytime, disproportionately female Islamic burglars. I mean, I think that is the most crucial thing because it stands out. Again, it's not a ding against Islam as a whole or any demographic as a whole, because of course the victims in many of these instances happen to also be Muslims. But the fact is, what makes this unique, what makes this eye-catching, is that these people are wearing Islamic garb, that they are Muslim. This is the most crucial fact about this particular case. And if you want people to actually phone in appropriate tips, I think it is quite notable that these are Muslim women that are dressed up in Muslim garb committing daytime burglaries, not vague, nebulous, traveling groups of thieves.
Investigators say the groups are typically small, separate teams, often with 2 or 3 women. Their primary focus, high-value jewelry. 30 cases reported in the first 3 months of 2025.
So again, they actually do give us the information that they are primarily women. They end up breaking into groups of 2 to 3, also known as cells that go out and infiltrate and then commit these terrible robberies in this particular community. But as you can see, there are some photos that give you some of their faces and whatnot. And again, these do not look like your typical burglars. First of all, for a woman to commit a crime, that is extraordinarily rare. For a woman that looks like in and around the age range of these particular women is also rare. But again, it is quite notable that each and every one of them looks like they just came out of the mosque and ended up going directly into your home in order to burglarize you.
30 cases reported in the first 3 months of 2025. One of them, detectives say, 3 days ago at a house on Woodbridge Road near Dillon Heights Avenue. Mayoud Canaan.
It's crazy because I feel like they are studying the houses that they're targeting.
So another thing that I think is quite notable in this particular video right here is the fact that we're talking about Baltimore County, not the city of Baltimore, and the reason why you know that is just look at the houses right here that you're seeing. Look at the neighborhoods. They look like some of the nicest neighborhoods in the entire country. And by the way, oftentimes when you hear YouTube creators say that they're from Baltimore, they're from the city, they know what's going on, they are more likely to live in neighborhoods like this rather than what we actually see in the city of Baltimore. But again, take note of the fact that the people who are being targeted, the people who are being victimized, appear to be Islamic or at least ethnically in the same community themselves. They end up interviewing this guy wearing some normal clothes, but you hear from his name that he sounds kind of Islamic-y, and it is quite unfortunate that oftentimes the perpetrators happen to match the religion, or they're from the same community or the same ethnic origin of those that they are victimizing. But this is common because people tend to hang out where they live, and they know the area where they live, and they feel more comfortable committing burglaries and whatnot in those particular areas. And the thing about these women that are going out and doing these robberies is that they appear to be casing these particular joints on normal, regular, ordinary walks where they would not stand out in any way, shape, or form.
It was his neighbor's home that was hit by those thieves.
When they did it, his wife was still inside. She doesn't speak English very well. And when they went inside the house, they didn't know that she was in there.
Police say the groups primarily target homes where residents tend to be older and have minimal video surveillance. Detectives say they often arrive in a suspect vehicle driven by a male accomplice who drops off the women in the neighborhood.
Now, of course, this is a situation where things get quite sketchy. People are trying to do what are known as cold burglaries in this particular case, where they show up in a particular home when they expect nobody to be there, so they will have minimal resistance. But obviously, this guy's saying that his neighbor, who doesn't speak English all that well, again, very likely of the same ethnic origin as he is, and they ended up encountering this person, and I think in this case, they ended up taking off. But it is quite unfortunate that they're also targeting elderly people in this community. But the fact is, a lot of foreigners in the United States of America, especially those from specific kind of cultures like Asian or Middle Eastern in this particular case, they don't really have all that much trust for banks. They keep a lot of stuff in the home, and obviously the jewelry seems to be what they're targeting. And I guess in this particular community, or in these communities, because they're spreading out these robberies, jewelry seems to be a thing that they have in abundance. Now, of course, there is a man that is connected to this particular case, somebody who ends up dropping them off, and we all understand why. I mean, women aren't allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, so why would they be allowed to drive and be the getaway driver in their own robbery crew? Just kidding about that, guys. Everybody calm down. It's just jokes. It's just comedy. I'm hoping these people get busted and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And by the way, if they are immigrants to the United States, I hope that their green cards or visas or whatever gets revoked, and they end up getting deported back to their home country where they don't treat thieves all that well.
Police say the women then approach the home, then fabricate a story to the property owner, usually telling them that they want to buy something. While the person inside the home is distracted, the others will then force their way into the house through a side or back door. Neighbors now told by police to be alert.
So this is also quite interesting because in certain instances they're trying to go for a cold burglary where they end up breaking into these particular homes when they don't expect them to be occupied, like the incident that we're talking about with this guy's neighbor. But in other instances, they're quite bold. They actually end up going, ringing the doorbell, having a conversation with the person that occupies the dwelling, usually an elderly person, and then they distract them and force their way in as described by the local news and try to rob whatever. And again, I will just point out, if somebody shows up to your door, I know elderly people often get scammed in this country, and it's quite sad and really unfortunate, but if somebody shows up to your door looking to buy your expensive jewelry and you don't know that person, don't open the door. Do not bring out samples of said expensive jewelry, because oftentimes criminal intent is behind this, but there might be enough social trust in these particular communities that when they see somebody who's wearing the appropriate garb, speaking the appropriate language, that they decide that they can be trusted, and they end up opening their door to them, and that unfortunately leads to absolutely disastrous results.
He said, these people are doing this?
That's what police say. Somewhat deceived, he says, by the images.
So look, part of the reason why I'm doing this story is because the thieves in this particular story have something unique about them. Actually, two things that are unique about them. First and foremost, they're women. Very rare for that to happen in the United States of America. Again, males are very disproportionately those who are committing these crimes, and forcing your way into homes, as is done in some of these instances, is something that exudes male energy. The second reason, obviously, is because of the Islamic connection. Again, I don't think Muslims commit all that many crimes in the United States of America, and specifically Muslim women appears to be even more rare. But the third reason that I chose this segment is because of this man right here. This guy in this neighborhood who was absolutely shocked, had the same reaction that I had, and he's like, that's what the thieves look like? You're telling me a crime in Baltimore is being committed by these people? Are you serious? And this guy knows what's up. This guy is one of my favorite people ever to be interviewed on the local news that will never go viral in any kind of meaningful way, like an Antoine Dodson or anything of the sort, but the smile on his face, the joy of looking at these photos and not seeing young black males participating in these crimes crack me up. And then of course he says, like I told you before, that the neighborhoods that are being targeted are in fact Islamic neighborhoods, because he says they look just like his neighbors.
Of the suspects.
I mean, the way they dress, the way they look, the way they dress, the outfits, and the way they carry themselves. Look on here, they just look like your neighbors. They don't look like crooks. They don't look like thieves.
I genuinely 100% love Keith Baldwin right here. He's like, yeah, they don't look like crooks. They don't look like thieves. And what I find to be hilarious about this is, had he been a white person that was given this interview to the local Baltimore affiliate, Fox 45, then they would have probably asked, or people in the comments would have probably asked, well, what does a thief look like? What does a crook look like in your mind? But because he's an older, successful black man, if he's living in this neighborhood, which is very nice, he definitely has done right in his life, people just let it pass, and only I get to enjoy this, and I'm sharing it with all of you because this guy knows what's up. This guy understands what's going on, who's typically committing the crimes. He knows it ain't women. He knows it's not typically Muslim women. He knows what kind of neighborhood that he lives in, and he just very bluntly states that outright for everybody on Fox 45 Baltimore, and nobody takes note of it. Nobody realizes what he's saying except for me, because me and Keith Baldwin, we're on the same page with these particular photos. We had a very similar reaction because we know what robbery crew and the city of Baltimore typically adds up to. But again, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Obviously, if you're in and around this area and you recognize any of these suspects, call the authorities, give them the information, make sure these people are arrested, because what they're doing is quite severe. They're targeting elderly people, which is disgusting. They're targeting elderly Islamic people, again, people in their own community, and taking advantage of the social trust that they have, and that needs to be dealt with. Now, as per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a crazy robbery scheme in the Baltimore County area. Till next time.